Hey everyone, it's Aaron from Imperfect Impulses again. Today we're going to be doing some Distress Ink playing around. So I've got my Vagabond ready. We're going to start with the super awesome embossing technique. So let me get some tags. I guess I wasn't 100% ready. So plain old office manila tags, and just start picking random colors. I gotta tell you, I love the new lines that are out, the seasonal colors, and my favorites are the summer ones, the picked raspberry and the salty ocean in particular. Those two are just incredible. So I've also got some crushed olive, maybe some pine needles. This color looks very green, but it comes out very turquoisey. It's very cool. So that's why I always say never judge your distress inks by their labels. Because some of the ones that I thought I was going to hate, like crushed olive, has turned out to be one of my favorites. Alright, so just going to lay a background down using, let's go with the crushed olive. Again, I store my pads on the back of the Distress Ink. Now, I know a lot of people tell you to start off and work on, and while I agree you should do that, this technique really doesn't matter because we're going to end up embossing, so any imperfections are going to get covered up by that. So there's some crushed olive, and go in with some pine needles. This is one of my favorite colors. Because Distress Inks are water-based, they blend really, really nicely. See, that's the line of the crushed olive is right here, but when you go over it with another color, it blends the two colors together and it creates a third color. So it's one of the beauties of Distress Ink. I apologize if I was off camera at all. I'm trying new camera angles. I would love to be able to put my tripod up on my desk, but I will show you what I am working against. I have a shelving unit that has every single thing I need that I built, and yeah, it makes it a little bit hard to put your tripod up there. So let's try moving this way. Okay, so we've got a base layer down of Distress Ink. Oops, would help if I had a pad on. Okay, so base layer down. Now we're going to go with a darker color to accent the colors. And I think we're going to go in with peeled paint. It's a nice dark green. Now the texture fades, the front of the texture fade has all the writing on it. So it says Sizzix, Tim Holtz Alterations, and then the back has nothing. So this is going to be the side you want to put your ink on. So, and what I do, this is a Tim Holtz technique, what I do is I cut my texture fades up until about 1/4 of an inch to the end on either end, so that way you can slip your tag in and emboss the whole tag versus, you know, having that embossed or embossing upside down. So, and it's backwards. So I tend to slide this in first so that I can just close it and go. And I'm actually going to get my Vagabond completely ready. I don't like letting the texture fade and the tag slip all around once I've got the ink on. So then just pad directly down to the embossing folder. Ink it up really good. I'm actually going to model it up a little bit with a little bit of a darker color. This is Forest Moss that I'm throwing in here with the peeled paint. And then close it tight. Once you close it, try not to move it, because don't forget there's wet ink on that. Alright, then we're just going to send this through the Vagabond. Alright, now let's see what it did. Very cool. As I said, none of these techniques are my creation, so I'm just sharing what I've learned from other people. I'll put the Vagabond away for now. So that's your finished product. Came out very cool. You can see all the colors underneath, but then the dark colors got smashed into the impression when it got embossed. So I like that ledger one. So okay, we're going to put away Forest Moss for now. Now let's do some basic just distress. Let's use the new summer colors because they're so fun. This is Salty Ocean, and I'm going to do a little, sorry for the wiggle, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Since we're not using the Vagabond anymore. Okay, so this is Salty Ocean. Now this time I am starting off the edge and working my way in. I'm working in circular motions, trying to keep from getting harsh lines. You just go in random places. Now we're going in with Picked Raspberry, another summer color. And these two blended should make a cool purple. Whoa. So there's basic distress blending. Again, circular motions, start off, work your way on. Very, very basic. And now let's do some modeling. And that's M-O-T-T-L, not M-O-D-E-L. Just spraying straight water onto my hand, letting it drip. Let it sit for a minute. And then we're just going to go in and heat it up. Oh, that doesn't sound very good. You can dab up the color with a dry paper towel or baby white. That does not sound good. I might have to take that back. I just bought that. Okay, so there's some cool distress effects. If you've ever heard of the wrinkle-free distress, what that is you can get a distressed look. It gives almost a tie-dyed watercolor look by just putting some color down on your non-stick craft sheet. I try not to mix the colors. We're going to go in with the same two colors I just used. And I like to spray down my tag first so it's got some moisture on there. And then add some water to the ink. And that should blend it up pretty cool. And the nice thing about this is you can dry it and keep adding colors. Well, that sounds better. Okay, so now that it's dry, go get some more of that color. And as you can see, a lot of that pink is gone because it's been blended. So I'm just going to rub a little bit right there. Just to make it really vibrant. Here we go. And there you have what's called wrinkle-free distress. So it looks very distressed, very old, using the exact same colors. Look at the difference between those two tags. So that's a nice way of doing it. Then make sure you don't waste any of that ink. That's perfectly good ink. Normally I'd be smearing my art journal all over this, but it's out of reach at the moment. An even different effect from the leftovers. So there you go, 3 different tags from the same 2 colors. So that's one of the nice things about distress. Now let's go ahead and do the actual wrinkle distress, which I think tends to look a little bit better with the brown family colors. Favorite browns are all hidden from me. There they are. My favorite browns are frayed burlap and gathered twigs. The gathered twigs is from the fall line. I love a lot of the fall colors. They're awesome. Frayed burlap is one of Tim Holtz's regular colors. But the frayed burlap just is a beautiful color. As far as brown goes, I'm typically not a big brown person, but it's really cool. It's very dirty looking, so it's great for distressing. So for the wrinkled distress, you want to throw down a layer of color. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's distress, so it's okay that we've got some dark areas, some light areas. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to darken up a couple areas. Okay, there we go. Now, what you do, wrinkle it all up. And you want lots of different wrinkles going in different directions. It's okay if it ends up tearing. This is distress. It's supposed to look old and worn and beat up and not loved, and that is the whole point. So you can go in and manipulate certain areas if you think it's all going in one direction or you don't like the way it's looking. You just really want a lot of those peaks and valleys. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with Gathered Twigs and just brush right over the top. And go in all directions. Try to get as much of that ink on there as you can. This is what makes it look like old paper or an old leather briefcase. Now you could dry it just as it is, or you can also throw a little bit of water over it and watch it run. I like doing this because it really makes it look old when you do this, because then that color just kind of leaks a little bit down into the lighter colors. And then what I do is I take this is a cheap Walmart iron for $6 that I got, and I just don't keep it filled with water. And I always iron on the back. It can really change the colors if you iron over the top. So that's what I've noticed anyway. So I don't know if it's because the iron I'm using is not made for crafts, but so I iron over the back, and it still affected the colors, probably just because I had it on so high. And if you don't like how that's looking a little bit gray, then you can always go back in with your lighter color, which in this case was the frayed burlap. Go back in with that lighter color. Just add some more of that color back in. Because that color's lighter, it's not going to cover up your darker color, which is the Gathered Twigs. So, there you go. Wrinkled Distress. And I guess last but not least, let's do some watercoloring with Distress Inks. Wipe up some of this color real quick. Let me grab a stamp. Okay, now when you're doing this technique, you're going to want to stamp with a stamp pad that is solvent based and waterproof. So archival ink works beautifully, Stays On works, I believe some of the mementos, if not all of them. I don't work with memento, so excuse me for not knowing. And okay, so we have a good impression of this butterfly lady. Really like her. Now you want to dry this ink to make sure it's perfectly dry. Okay, this is another Viva Las Vegas stamp. So when you're watercoloring, what you want to do is have either a water brush handy or just some water and your Distress ink. What I like to do is I just rub some Distress ink down on my non-stick craft sheet. And where's my needles? And then what I do is I just spray just a little bit in the corners, just so that way there's some water available to help move that ink around. Because if you add too much water, it will dilute the colors too much. So then what you want to do, pick up just a little bit of water, and then I go over into the pure color, and then just start coloring. This is a brush I got from Michael's. It was $2 or $3, but I really like the little detailed point. It's not a water brush, it's just a regular brush. And this works really well on watercolor paper. And if you want the color deeper, just move into the more saturated color where the water is not, because there's still water on your brush, and it'll give it a darker color. You can also dry it and then add another layer. So I'm trying to get that bottom part of that wing really vibrant pink, like that. And then just wipe your brush off on either a baby wipe or a paper towel, or spray it off a little bit. Dab it off into some clean water, and I'm just using a spray bottle from the travel section at Walmart for $1. You know I like saving money. So now we're going to go in. That was the picked raspberry. This is Salty Ocean. And the beauty is, because these are water-based, you can watercolor with them and blend them. So if you want, you can mix two colors together, get a new color. You can blend them beautifully. This is why I have not yet picked up the distress markers. I just don't see what I can do with those that I can't do with these, other than more detailed stamping, like actually coloring the stamp versus coloring the negative spot of the stamp, which is far too time consuming for me. This typically takes just a few minutes. So this I'm in for, but coloring my whole stamp in, yeah, no, not so much. So you can see that's a good little foundation for a new tag. And then probably when I'm all done, I'll go over the whole thing with a really light color, maybe even, maybe a little distress stain, see how it affects. Let's see how it affects. I don't know how it affects those colors. Well, it didn't too much. Dulled them down a little bit, but you can still see those colors. That was the spun sugar distress stain. Don't worry if your paper curls up. It does that when it gets wet. It'll flatten back out once you dry it. And if you notice it's not, you can always flip it. Oop. Well, we're going to get a new effect now. I told you, imperfect impulses. My stuff is imperfect, and I like it that way. So now we're going to do a little wrinkle-free distress on this, since I globbed it up good. But you can still see her colors. So yeah, I messed that up, but you get the technique. Sorry about that. So I hope you've learned something. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Check out my blog at imperfectimpulses.wordpress.com. And I hope to hear from you and let me know what you like, what you didn't like. Let me know what you'd like to see, what you didn't like seeing. I like feedback, so I'm not perfect and I'm cool with that. So let me know. Talk to you later. Bye.